Cuphead. Everyone knows him as our lovable, friendly little glass buddy. I know him as hell. Yes, this game is hard, no need to sugarcoat it. I had a long challenge ahead of me to even get past the first world, but ultimately, I knew I could speedrun this game without fail. Alright, little insight to the plot here. Cuphead and Mugman enter the Devil's Casino, which by that name alone, I feel like you'd either be an idiot to enter or a gambling addict. But in Cuphead and Mugman's case, they found a way to be both. They gamble away their literal souls to the devil himself, but decide they want to keep their souls, so negotiate to do the devil's dirty work for him. Cuphead and Mugman agree to collect the souls of his debtors, so enter us. The game begins, where we meet up with the wise Elder Kettle, who kindly reminds us of the fine pickle that we've gotten ourselves into. He warns us the enemies we'll face are likely to be pretty tough, so he shoots something out of his head. And it's a potion that he gives us, or steroids, I don't know. Oh, I heard his message loud and clear, so in response, I decided to dash dance on him for a little bit. I then went through the tutorial, learn the basic controls, and I would have left this part out of the video if it weren't for the fact that it took me 8 years to learn how to shoot diagonally up. We enter the level select screen, which is interactive. We can actually move around to choose which level to play, which I think is really cool. We talked to this tomato guy, tomato? I don't know, it doesn't matter, because the real way to pronounce it is legend. He gave me 3 gold coins. I head over to the big building that said shop on it and figured that was probably where to spend my coins. Pork Rinds Emporium, and he gave me a nice greeting. Alright, well, maybe a bit more of a demonic greeting, but a greeting nonetheless. Pork Rind gave me a nice selection here, but in the end, I decided to go with the heart. It gave me an extra hit points, and I knew that I would definitely need that. Botanic Panic. It was time for my first official level.
Good day for us. Well done. You're up.
We faced off against Mr. Potato Head, who shot some gross-looking meatballs at us, and occasionally a worm, but at first glance I thought it was the tongue, so I'm kinda glad it wasn't. The catch with the worm, worm, was that it was pink so you could parry off it. Parrying boosted your special meter, which eventually you could use a strong attack at your enemy. Eventually I hit him enough that his cheeks started hurting and he got sad, and he gracefully burrowed himself back underground, so I figured it was over.
You eat all my
It was
meat?
not over. A giant onion emerged from the ground, and the second it saw sunlight, burst into tears, which is probably the most relatable thing in this game. This sequence of the level was absolutely the easiest because you only had to dodge the tears, and that was a cakewalk. Eventually I managed to convince Onion Buddy that crying is more of a garlic thing and he doesn't want to fit into that crowd, so he burrowed away too. The level then moved to its final stage and in came a carrot, who I guess was just trying to make me see things clearly. This was definitely the hardest part of the level. There were carrots that were helicoptering their way in. The mega carrot had a gaze that was hard to look away from, and it had like a mind beam that I immediately got hit by. What was really unfortunate about this is that the special shot meter I was talking about earlier was fully charged. Every card represented a shot that I had to use. But of course, I didn't notice this, so I was just kind of chilling around and then died. Okay. Alright, take 2 of this level. I really felt like it was starting to wrap up at this point. I also learned to use my special shots properly. I died. Look how close I was. That's actually a bit of a common theme in this. I definitely felt I learned the attack patterns of this level well enough to beat it the 3rd time through. Between both Mr. Potato Head and Crying Onion Buddy, I didn't lose a single life going into Mega Carrot. As Mega Carrot emerged, I had all of my special shots ready and immediately got off a lot of damage. The rest of this fight went extremely smooth. I didn't lose a single life for the rest of it and managed to knock him out. And I mean, what better way to celebrate than to teabag on him? Clip Joint Calamity was our next level. Here we faced off against Kermit, and he seems to have been taking up boxing. I guess it's good to have a plan B in case all goes wrong with the Muppets. Joining him was a Kermit wannabe who regurgitated his very bad lunch of flaming bees at me. The spicy bugs confused me and I kept getting hit by them, so in response, I decided to try Mario hopping off of them. Unfortunately, I'm no magic plumber, so I couldn't actually do that and just kept getting hit. Something about Cuphead is it's very unlikely that you're going to beat a level on your first try. You have to progress through the level in order to learn what the moves are gonna be and how to react to them. For example, I ended up learning to shoot the bees instead of trying to jump off their head, which probably should have been my first instinct anyway. Kermit apparently had enough, so he was ready to pounce. And by pounce I meant kill me after morphing into a wheel, which is gotta be bad for your back. Anyway, I tried this battle again and it went a lot smoother this time. I made it to the second sequence in this fight where the Kermit wannabe did what any of us would do and channeled his inner windmill, while Kermit himself threw something at me. Whatever they were though, I managed to dodge them without any problem. The rest of the battle went okay, and then the 2 Kermits did what any rational frogs would do when they're losing a brawl to a cup, and turned into a slot machine. The slot machine was a little too intimidating for me, and I died immediately. You know the drill, it's take 2, and the frogs ended up reaching their final form again, and I was confident this time would be different because I had an extra life to work with. I don't know where this confidence came from because it's really out of character for me, and I got hit immediately. I parried off his boxing glove, but I must have hit a nerve because his reflexes went off. His crazy reflexes initiated the slot machine, and it landed on the bulls, which sent in some spiky spinning laser saucers, and I died. You went for broke and now you're croaked. Well, you know what? Words hurt sometimes. I hit the slot machine yet again, and apparently there's a 1 in 3 chance on what it could land on. This time it was the snakes, which at first glance I thought would be the easiest because all you had to do was jump off of them. I still found a way to die somehow. Back at the slot machine again, and something I really liked about this battle was the fact that you had to parry off of the boxing glove in order to progress the level. It gave you incentive to parry more and really showed the importance of it. On this roll of the slots, I got the tiger, and although Tony may say differently, these spiky saucers were not great. I died in the next run too, but not before I used my special shot at the ground, because it was looking at me funny. It's time for attempt who cares of this level, and finally I managed to get a knockout, and I hope I also could convince Kermit to go back to his day job. Oh, sorry, don't mind me. I am just vibing to this windscreen music. To me, it was clear how much effort and care was put into Cuphead because it mattered to the team to make this game the best it could possibly be. Anyway, this smug-looking coin told me that he had a lot of money and he spread some around the map that I could find. I decided to instantly ignore that for some reason. I found a fancy pillared building that I wanted to explore, but first I found a fish who was fishing. That just seems wrong. Anyway, the fish confused me as a spirit, which is a common mistake. I see why you'd think that. The fish explained spirits a bit more while degrading me, calling me a nitwit if I thought shooting spirits was the way to take care of them. I felt slightly insulted and I didn't want to stand for that, so I moved on into the Mausoleum. Inside was an urn, front and center calling out for help, and typically it is against my morals to help urns, but I figured it's what needed to be done, so I made an exception. Threatening the urn were a bunch of pink ghosts, and as we've learned from the game's tutorial and the condescending fish outside, we needed to parry off of them in order to save this very scared piece of pottery. I took these lessons to heart, and as a result, I kept shooting for the entire level. Regardless though, this level was still incredibly easy. Some ghosts looked like they were trying really hard to be intimidating, while others were just naturally angry. But in the end, no problem here. After we won, we waited patiently by aggressively teabagging, and then the urn majestically opened, revealing the legendary chalice. The chalice gave us the same magic juice that the wise elder kettle did, and apparently this gave us some special ability that unlocks when all of our special shots are charged up. I never realized this was the case and didn't use it once. I then spent the next minute straight just trying to find out where the next level was located until I finally found what was probably the most disgusting sounding level, Ruse of an Ooze. A big blue slime greeted us with a tip of the cap by removing his head. In all fairness, out of anything that I could question in this game, that was pretty insignificant in comparison. I'll be honest, this level just didn't live up compared to the rest of the game that I've played so far. It was somewhat uninteresting, and I didn't think the sequence changes were as unique from one another as the Kermits or the vegetables. Regardless though, something that did stay the same was my lack of an ability to understand any of the moves. I couldn't figure them out and I died repeatedly. Something I did like about this battle at least though is that the slime looked like the protagonist of Rocket Slime, which is a game I will never miss the chance to bring up. Go by Rocket Slime, it's really good. I give this battle 5 tries, and on the 5th attempt, I finally reached the 3rd sequence of the level. This sequence was my favorite just because it stood out compared to the other 2. The first sequence was just the normal slime, the second was the slime but bigger, and the third was the slime from the grave that was trying to crush you. The only problem I had with this level was that the target you had to hit was the slime on the grave itself, which made for a bit of an awkward angle you had to shoot at. Just as the saying goes though, 5th time's a charm, and I managed to knock him out. The best thing to come from this level was the fact that the slime's name was Goopy Le Grand. I spoke to this engineer fellow who again degraded us, saying that we would never fly in a plane unless we read the blueprints. So, we read the blueprints. The blueprints were basically a tutorial to prepare us for the next level, Threatening Zeppelin. Oh, where do I begin with this one? Initially, this level was my favorite, and don't get me wrong, I still love it, but my God, it was hard. I died in this level more than any other, and phase 1 of it was an evil Pinocchio inside of a unicycle plane thing. Something I found really interesting about this level though was that I never got bored of it despite dying as many times as I did. I think the reason for this was because they introduced the new plane mechanic in this level, which was something really appealing to just learn more about. You'd face off against a variety of zodiac signs in the second phase, such as this bull that represented Taurus that just killed me. This level was a prime example of having to lose a lot in order to learn a lot. As you progress through the level, you'd see new attacks that you're unfamiliar with, and it is extremely hard to survive those when you're seeing them for the first time. Typically in other games, I would find that a really tedious and repetitive mechanic, but I didn't in Cuphead. There were 2 main reasons for that. One, because this game's art style is just gorgeous, and I was genuinely curious to see what the next phase would just look like. 2, because every phase was so unique that you almost felt like you had 3 levels in one. Anyway, for now, that's enough of me explaining how much I love this level. We then moved on to, Gemini, okay, the Gemini portion. Anyway, the two Gemini girls sent a bullet storm at me, which seems like a weird thing for flavorless cotton candy to have access to. This attack was really easy to dodge as long as I remembered the direction the bullets were heading in. That's called foreshadowing. They then tried to send in a bullet storm again, but I dodged it with ease. They got insecure of their attack, so they left after that. It seems like it was the right decision because I died instantly. After dying many more times, I ended up making it to a new phase of it, which was the Sagittarius. I liked this part of the level, but I'm gonna be honest, if you've survived all the way up until now and then got hit, it's a little embarrassing because these attacks were very easy to dodge. You could just spin in a circle and avoid the fragments, or you could even shoot them, which I just decided never to do for some reason. But yeah, as I was saying, it's really embarrassing to die at... Again, despite dying as many times as I had, I was still as encouraged to go into attempt 832 as the first one. It was so refreshing to have a level like this, where you didn't just want to beat it for the pride or the fact that you can say you did it, but because it was fun to continue. The way this level progressed was just so satisfying to experience because each phase had so much to offer. Speaking of phases, it was finally time to move on to the last one. However, in order to initiate that, Evil Pinocchio had to make a sound that I'm not sure what they were going for, but ended up a lot more disturbing than I expected. See what I mean? It's just, oh, they turned into a moon. It's no big deal. I mean, this is just what happens out of frustration when you send the power of constellations after a flying cup and it doesn't work, you know? As all other levels, the third sequence was awesome, and I was really excited to... You lose a lot, you learn a lot. You lose a lot, you learn a lot. You lose a lot! Anyway, we moved on. We made it back to the disturbing scream that I'll keep muted for your sake this time. I really liked this tantrum Evil Pinocchio threw, you know, a really weird sound, a lot of flailing of the arms, and then you turn into the moon. It's like Tantrum 101. I'm gonna guess their mom didn't get them the candy bar they wanted because I don't know why else you'd throw a fit like this. Wait, who would their mom even be? Oh, Mother Nature, obviously. Wait, I'm dead? No, it's fine. I mean, take 837 didn't quite go as planned either, okay? It is fine, and neither did the next 8, and the last 5 of those 8, I got to the moon every time and died, so it's fine. You lose a lot, you learn a lot, you lose a lot, you learn a lot. I can do it this time. Take 846 as a charm, just like the saying goes. Yeah, you know how I said that it was fun to keep trying this level again? It's not. So now time for take 846, and this would be different. My nemesis of this battle up to this point were definitely the UFOs. The beams that shot down from them kept hitting me, and I finally figured out though that they turned on and off at different intervals, and I just had to find my moments to pass through before they turned on again. Also, I really want to talk about how clutch that dodge was. But I finally managed to deal enough damage to get the knockout, and now Evil Pinocchio Moon Thing is no more. You can bet I was soaking this windscreen up. It was time for Floral Fury, the final level of the world. Alright, look, if you're a diehard Cuphead fan, you may be asking, what about the Treetop Trouble run and gun level? Listen, when my best run of this level ended like this, yeah, that leap of faith told me everything I needed. It was time to move on. Anyway, time for Floral Furry. Furry. Oh my. Here we were greeted by a lovely flower who, oh my god. Okay, Floral Fury is an iconic level, and finally I have an excuse to talk about the music. In any form of media, the first thing I notice is usually the soundtrack, and with Cuphead it absolutely stood out. What I really appreciated about this soundtrack was the kind of freeform jazz style they went with. While it followed the same genre and most of it was for the same mood, each song still felt individual enough from one another. I haven't played a game before that followed this genre, and if you were to explain to me this is what it would sound like, I'd have a hard time picturing it working. But Cuphead showed just how great it could be. Anyway, let's focus on the match, and this first attempt did not last much longer. I died really shortly after. I then challenged this not-so-lovely flower for a second time. This battle decided to be stubborn with the way that you had to shoot. Our flowery friends didn't really feel like being plucked, so you couldn't shoot his stems, and only his face was vulnerable. This led to needing to shoot diagonally a lot, which is kind of awkward with the controls. I was using a keyboard to control, and I imagine it would be a lot more smooth with an actual controller. I'm just not fancy like that. I would rank this level the second hardest out of any that I played, just behind the plain one. Anyway, the battle begun with our pedaled pal doing a hypnotizing dance, and then turned into a turret shooting out seeds. I'm guessing this is some hidden chakra it unlocked, because I wasn't aware sunflowers could do that. The seeds then instantly repopulated, and all I'm saying is if humans were capable of doing that, it would save a lot of time. As usual though, this was the easiest part of the level, but the one thing that kept getting me was this plant that just spawned in the sky, and it shot down a seed that I could parry off of. I never ended up parrying off of it, and I rarely shot it down though, so I kept getting hit by it when I went on the higher platforms. This level made you pay attention to so many things that were being thrown at you at once, and I liked that. It also only really had 2 main phases, but it took me many tries to get to the second. Many tries. Yeah, it's definitely giving the plain level a run for its money. The real question though is who would win, Evil Pinocchio or Flowery Friend? Find out next week on Factor Cap, where we test out the My next run ended up being much better, and I got to the second phase. Funtime Flower got so mad he tried pulling his petals out, but he stopped. He probably realized it's bad for, you know, it's like photosynthesis and shit. Maybe the lies about being lovely caught up to them because they too became Pinocchio. This part was a good challenge. The ground was completely closed off due to the vines being there, and we all know they're forbidden to step on. And these same vines would end up swinging up to try to attack you on 2 of the 3 cups that you had to stand on. All while Flower Foe was sending something else at you. I don't know what that is. I tried using a special shot that wasn't so special, and I got hit down to 1 life, and then did the exact same thing and died. And again, look how close I was. I tried so many more times. This took forever, and by forever, I mean 5 minutes. It was only 5 minutes. The bright side to this fight though was that the music was so good I really didn't care if I had to try again. Back at the final phase again, and this time I had 3 lives instead of 2 and thought I had a much better feel for the attacks. Something I also want to point out is I thought it was really cool when you got hit by whatever these things were, there was this distorted effect that happened on your screen, like it was kind of blurry. There might actually be a reason for that, but if there is, I'm too dumb to understand it. It was just such a fun effect on the screen. So fun that I decided to get hit by another one. Down to 1 life at this point, but I managed to get the knockout. Flower Friend had a bit of a disturbing defeat animation, but I mean, eyes are overrated anyway. Boom! Boom! So there you have it. This was me speedrunning the first world in Cuphead in record time, may I add. I wonder what's the speedrunning record for the entire game. Oh, okay.